Hi guys, so this week we are going behind the scenes of an underwater photo shoot. Most of the pictures we're going to be looking at are digital, but I thought also for this shoot we would try and shoot some film. I shoot one roll of Portra 400 and one roll of Trix 400. But before we get into the photo shoot portion of the video, I thought it would be appropriate to explain how I got into underwater photography, what gear I used, and what I've learned so far. So this summer, a friend of mine, we met up and we decided that we would travel all the way from Edmonton to Tofino. We hitchhiked through British Columbia, we made several stops along the way, and ended up in Vancouver for a few nights. By the way, here you can see my friend holding a muslin fabric. Little pro tip, since I wanted to keep my gear very light, I didn't want to bring any reflectors and such. I used a muslin fabric to reflect light into the subject. Anyway, back onto our main subject. After Vancouver, we took the ferry to Nanaimo, and then we went all the way to Tofino, which was our end goal was to go and surf in the Pacific. Always having photography on my mind, the first question I had was, how am I going to photograph this? So after doing a little research, I found the Audax underwater housing. It has a better quality, build quality and ergonomics than what you would find for about $100 price range, but still pretty cheap versus more expensive gear like the professional housings, which can go pretty expensive. So when choosing your Audax underwater housing, you get the choice to choose between different thread size, and those that thread size will mount to the appropriate thread size for your lens. So I chose the thread size for a 35mm or 50mm, which I believe is around 52mm, the thread size. So it was a bad idea because of the ergonomics of the underwater housing. There's an extension around the lens, and it's pretty long to protect your camera from any kind of external debris, whether you're shooting in the rain, in muddy environments, and so forth. This extension around the lenses was quite longer than my 50 or 35 prime lenses, and this extra latex bit obstructed my lens and prevented it to be able to autofocus, which made it extremely difficult to focus on the water or out of water in any condition. It was very difficult to use my autofocus. We were there for 4 hours. My friend was surfing pretty much all the time. I was just focused on taking pictures. It was extremely difficult to take a picture, and in fact during the 4 hours that we were there, I was only able to capture one good photograph that I liked. A few pictures were good enough, but really I was only able to get one good picture. When I set up my underwater photo shoot, I had a cable running through this plug and a silt. The cable ran out of the water, hooked onto a pocket wizard, which then triggered a flash wirelessly. I set up my light onto a boom so that it could be as close to the subject over the water, and then taking the inverse square law into effect, this would give me a dramatic light drop. Shooting in a pool, I didn't really want to be able to see the tiles of the pool and the environment of the pool. I just wanted the setting of the underwater. So my first shoot, I did it with a 35mm using the flash, and we shot for 2 hours. It was the first time was pretty challenging, and I got one picture that I was pretty happy with. Looking at the detail, it's not as sharp, and the color is a little funky, but the composition and color of the dress, everything kind of like came together. But in any case, my second try gave me a lot better results. You can see from these images, the subject is a lot more clearer, the colors are a lot better. So my second try, I really was satisfied. And now finally we came back to the main shoot. So we shot the first portion with a digital camera, but I also wanted to try shooting film since this was my third time. I'm starting to be a little more comfortable in water, knowing how to direct the subject. A very important thing that I found is to direct your subject to let all of the air out before they go on the water. If they go down on the water with their lungs still filled with air, they will naturally float back up to the surface. As you can see in these images, the subject is battling, is like fighting to stay on the water. After I instructed the subject to let all of the air out before going on the water, the subject could be a lot more deliberate with her hands. You can see in the first images her hands are always sticking out of the frame. They're always extended because she's trying to stay on the water. When she let her air out, she's able to sink down lower and stay there, and then she can bring her hands and try to like control her dress, her hair. Shooting on the digital camera, I probably shot around 300 images, and out of those 300 images, there are perhaps 7 images that I was really satisfied with. There are so many elements that you have to take account of, as much me as a photographer as the subject has to take into consideration. What is her face? Is she gonna be opening her eyes? Are her eyes closed? How is her hair? Is her hair in the way? Is her dress all sometimes she'd be fighting with her dress to kind of like set her hands free. A lot of time you're not in control of how the dress gonna look like, and so on and so forth. So in the end, I was very happy how the dress looked. The color of the red color of the dress really popped out, which made the images very compelling. And I must say I'm very happy with these images. Then we took a little break. I switched the camera from my D800 to my F100 that already had the Portra 400 loaded in the camera. I matched the settings from my digital camera to my film camera. When I set the settings on my digital camera, having in mind that I would then be pasting those settings back onto my film camera. So I rated the film at 200 to give me some latitude so that it wouldn't be too contrasty and I'd be able to control it a little more in Lightroom. I don't know how I feel about the color images. There's a few frames that I think I like. I might need to retouch them. I haven't had too much time to really work on them. A lot of times I like to sit on some images and try to think about which one I really like, how I'm gonna edit them. And these are the images I'm showing. They're not straight out of camera. I adjusted the contrast and saturation in Lightroom to make it somewhat pleasing. So yeah, I'm not too sure about these color images yet. I don't know if I'm gonna be using them. Here are just a few of them. If you would like to see all of them, you can go on my website where I'll be showing most of them. And finally, we took another break and I loaded some Trix 400 into the camera. And in terms of exposure, I really like how the images turned out. In terms of composition, again, I only had 24 frames to work with. My mindset is if I would have shot 300 images with film, I probably would have had as many good ones. But in the end, I kind of like this one. I find the composition is pleasing. Something that really helped also is having the subject use her dress to diffuse the light. Perhaps the settings I use, the highlights are blown out, but when the dress comes on top and diffuses the light is even, is more pleasing. Perhaps in future photo shoots I'll try to bring a reflector and try to bounce some light back to fill in the shadows that are created, since the light is coming from up top. If the subject is not looking directly up towards the light, which is quite challenging when you're underwater, and to put your head up, your water goes up your nose, so it's quite challenging for the subject. If the subject's face is not looking upwards, harsh light will appear in the eye sockets, under the nose, which isn't really appealing light for any kind of subject. But if the light is diffused, it's a lot nicer. Or if she's looking directly upwards, like in this image, you have a more pleasing light distribution. Overall, I'm very satisfied with how the digital images came out. I didn't have any doubt that they would come out. This is my third time. I'm feeling pretty confident doing this. The film, how the film came out, well, you know, in terms of composition, there weren't so many images that I'm really thrilled about. I'm really happy in terms of the exposure. Everything turned out pretty well. Since I couldn't rely on the LCD using the film cameras, I had to look through the eyepiece 100% of the time, and I'd say 90% of my shots are sharp. The autofocus did a great job, and I think the composition wasn't too far off overall. But how the film rendered the dress is very interesting. I think it's quite beautiful. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.